Hello, everybody. Welcome to our brief tutorial on using Google Draw for your virtual exhibit. This might be a little bit clunky because I'm going to be moving around between several screens and on several different pages, and I don't have a PowerPoint already started for this. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to our Tennessee History Day webpage, which is tennesseehistory.org/Tennessee History Day. You're going to want to click on the virtual contest resources, which is going to take you to a page that gives you all the important dates, gives you links to the webinars that we're having and the open house sessions that we're hosting. If you keep on scrolling down, you'll see the 5 different categories. You want to click on Exhibit. On the exhibit page, which is not fully built out right now because we haven't done the exhibit webinar yet, and we haven't done our tutorial, that's what we're doing at the moment, you will see where we have the webinar, which you should watch if you're not able to attend it. And then you'll see the rules. Let's take a look at them. I recommend that you read the rules while you're trying to make up your mind if you want to do an exhibit or not. I'm not going to go over them now, but you should know that you can do a traditional 3D exhibit. However, you're going to have to photograph it and put those photographs into a template. The students who start their exhibits digitally and create their exhibits digitally are going to have an advantage. So if you think back in time, perhaps before you have done one of these trifolds with the title up across the top, what our challenge is this year is to take this format and turn it into something that's flat, turning it into something that can be viewed on a screen with the potential of one day being printed out and then placed on a board like this. Now, for our contests at the district, regional, and state level, all of your submissions should be virtually, and the judges are going to judge you based on what they see on their screens. So you do need to take that into account if you're thinking about doing the exhibit category. There is a possibility that the national contest can be held in person. If it is, we will work with the 4 finalists for National History Day to help you transform your digital submission into a 3-dimensional submission. In the past, you may have done a round exhibit or a square exhibit or a triangular exhibit or an exhibit with a lot of stuff built out on it, or with a lot of props, or with an electronic component. I'm going to recommend you not do that this year. This is not the year to get fancy. If we want to look here, this is an exhibit that won a gold medal for National History Day some time ago. I think it was Revolution, Reaction, Reform was the theme that year. And as you can see, these students have built a model of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory Fire. It was very effective. You're not going to be able to do something like that this year. So if you're somebody who really enjoys working with your hands, creating things, you might want to try performance this year because you're going to be spending a lot of time in front of a screen for this particular exhibit. All right, so what we recommend is that you use a Google Draw template, which we've already created for you. You can use any graphic design program that you are comfortable with and that you have access to. We don't want to limit you on that, but we think that the easiest thing to do would be to use what we've already set up for you. Here we have a list of the different graphic design programs, and I'm not going to go through all of these, but there are lots of options. These are just some of the options. We've divided it up into pros and cons so that you have some awareness before you start down this path that, you know, if you start with Adobe Spark, which is free and is used in a lot of classrooms, the maximum size of that is 20 by 20. And we are telling you that you can have a file that is up to 74 inches wide and 72 inches tall. So you wouldn't want to limit yourself to something that was 20 by 20 when you can use something that's much larger than that. So from the virtual contest resources exhibits page, you're going to click where it says Google Draw template, and you're going to get a window that says, do you want to make a copy? And you have to have a Google account to do this. You have to have Google Drive and a Gmail account in order to be able to do this. If you're working in a group, your group members all need to be able to access Google Drive in order to make this work. So that's also something you need to think about. So yes, I would like to make a copy. And here is this already set up for you. It's 74 inches across, 72 inches tall. Now, if we flash back to what exhibits used to look like, we've got the title up here, and then we have 3 different segments here. You are not limited to that. You could put your title along the side or put your title diagonally. You could divide it up into quadrants instead of 3 different sections. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to stick with this basic layout here. And I already have some text and some images ready. And I'm just going to show you how to import them and how I might go about creating a draft. What does this say? Please move, what does it say? Please move this window away from, I don't know what is that? Honestly, don't know what that is. I don't know even if you all can see that. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give the background a color, and I'm just going to go with a really pale blue. Now I'm going to insert some text. Well, first of all, I'm going to actually go look at my text. Here's my folder where I have, some images already set up and some texts. Here is the texts and the image combined. This started off life as a blog post. Here is just the text stripped down, and then here's a couple images that I'm going to put in there. So let's take a look here at the text that I have. One thing that you may want to do is when you're going from Word into, oh, it says my screen sharing is paused. Let me start it back up again. Stop share, oops, share screen. I'm gonna have to switch. So here's my text that I have here. And let's see, did I have a title for this? I think I had it. These are just the quotes and the captions. Let's go back and let's look here at the combination of, so here's my title. One thing that you may want to do is there's this nifty little program called Notepad. Oh, sorry, it keeps on going back. It keeps on stopping the share. There is this nifty little program called Notepad, which will strip the formatting out from you. One thing that I do if I'm working with text is I put it into Notepad first so that I don't have this sticky formatting. Because sometimes if you take something from Word and you try to put it into Google Draw or PowerPoint or something like that, you'll carry the formatting with it, and you won't be able to get rid of that formatting. You won't be able to treat it as if it's plain text. So let me see if I can open up and work between. Here is my Notepad here. Yes, okay, it still says I'm sharing, which is good. So let me go and get my title. Okay, here is my title. Oh, come on. It keeps on stopping the share. Here it is. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my title. I'm going to put it into Notepad. And as you can see, it's stripped the formatting out. I'm actually going to put that all on one line. Now I'm going to pick up this text here, and I'm going to go back to my Google Draw, and it stopped the share. Let's try sharing again. There we go. And I'm going to insert a text box, and I'm going to make it go all the way across the top, and this is going to be my title. And I'm just going to hit Control V, or I should be able to hit Control V, paste without formatting. It is not working. Let me try it again. Control C, copy, Control V. Okay, that's not good. All right, let me try it from the Word document and see if that works any better. Control C in order to. Okay, see how tiny it is up there? That's why. I'm going to make this really, really, really big so that I can see it. This is telling me the biggest I can make it is 96 point font, which is not going to be big enough. That's not good. Let me go ahead and center this. Okay, there's another really teeny tiny row way up here. Let me zoom in actually. Let's zoom in. So this is going to be a little bit, okay, so here's what it was doing. It actually was copying and pasting my font, but I could not see it. Okay. So Ida B. Wells' International Appeal, the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition. That is the title that I want. So I'm going to get rid of all this extra stuff that I accidentally put in there. I'm going to make that as big as I can, and I'm going to make it bold. Now you can pick any of these fonts that you want here. Arial is not a very good font to use, but I'm just going to stick with it because that's the default one. Now what I've done is I have centered this. You need to know that you should not use anything smaller than 20 point font for your text, and you shouldn't use anything smaller than 12 point font for your credits. Those are the lines that go underneath the images that you're using. All right, so one thing I might want to think about doing is, especially for my title, depending upon where I put it, I might want to think about first saving this as an image and then importing it as an image, because then I can control the size of it better. I can make it much, much larger if I treat it as an image rather than as text. All right, I'm going to put in some more text. I'm going to have a box or a section that I call context. And the default, I think it's putting it in as Arial at 14 point font, which as you can see is very, very, very small. Let's go up as big as we can. So we're going to have a box that we call context, and I'm going to Control C, Control V. I'm going to make a copy of this box. And we're going to have a box that I call, or a section that I call communications or communication. And then let's have a third section that we call, let's put it over here, that we're going to call consequences. Okay, so if I were doing a traditional trifold board, this would be my title, and these would be the 3 sections of my board. Again, you're not limited to that. Now what I want to do is bring in an image. So here we go. Here's an image. I'm going to get it from my computer. I'm going to get it from this folder, and we're going to put Ida B. Wells in here. So that's pretty small. If you want to resize the image, go to a corner and grab the corner so that you have the arrow at a diagonal, and then that will keep your aspect ratio. So it won't, if you grab from here, see, you make her really distorted, or if you grab from here, you don't want her looking stumpy. So here is Ida B. Wells. And I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to put in some other images in here. There's the World's Fair. And oops, no, I don't want to do that. Hit the wrong thing. Now it's being slow. Okay, go away. Put in an image of, oh, that one's tiny. Okay, so if it comes in really tiny like that, you're definitely going to want to make sure that the resolution is sharp and that you have a nice, clean look to it, because what I'm doing is I'm making that much larger, and it might look blurry if I do that. All right, so let me actually go and fit it on the screen. And as you can see, this is not beautiful, but that's okay. I'm just starting out and sort of playing around with where things go. So now I need to get my text, which may cause the screen to stop sharing. So I have two files. I have one where I've got quotes and credits. So the credit is what goes underneath each image telling you, the viewer, where I got that. So this one's going to say Ida B. Wells dash Barnett, 1897, or Ida B. Wells dash Barnett, comma, 1897, comma, Tennessee State Library and Archives, because that's where I got that image. This one is going to say bird's eye view of the Chicago International Columbian Expo, comma, 1893, comma, Library of Congress, because that's where I got that one. This one will say Haitian Pavilion, comma, 1893, comma, World's Fair Expo, comma, Chicago. But some sort of identification so that people know where you got the image from and what that image is representing. Then, you can include quotes from the people. It might be a good idea to include a quote from Ida B. Wells. She worked with Frederick Douglass at the Haitian Pavilion. It might be good to include a quote from him about her to give an idea of how she was viewed during that time period. You don't want to go overboard with quotes because you don't have a whole lot of space. You also have to put your own text into 20-point font. So the quotes and your student composed text should be in at least 20-point font. The captions can be in 12-point font or larger. So I've got my different paragraphs. Let's go see. It's probably going to, oh no, it says I'm still screen sharing. That's good. Okay, so here's a quote from Ida B. Wells. Here is the text that I have written. Here is the clipping from the newspaper. This is a good primary source because it's talking about how she was run out of Memphis. Here's how, this is the context, how she ended up at the World's Fair. This is information about the pamphlet that she edited that was passed out, and here's the front cover of it, and here is a message to the public that she wrote herself. So these are both, this is a primary source. Here's a quote from her biography about that time in her life. And then this was, as I said, just a blog post that I wrote, so it's not super documented, but obviously I would want to have a much better bibliography than this, and one that adheres to a particular style and is annotated. All right, so let's see what we can do. Here is, and I've got some hyperlinks in here. Let's see what happens if I try to put them into Google Draw. All right, so here we have our context. And it all went up here, teeny, 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 tiny. All right, so we're going to pull this down. We can pull the whole thing down if I grab it and pull it down like this. So we're going to put this under her because this is explaining how she ended up there. And let's make this a nice big, that's a 72 point font. Now it did actually, and this is what I was talking about when I was talking about the formatting being sticky. It actually did carry the hyperlinks in that I had. So let's go in and see if we can take those out. What happens if let's see, let's try paste without formatting. Paste without formatting. That took that out. Now this brought this in as Times New Roman because that's how I originally composed it. That's what it was in the Word file. That's a different font than the title, which is Arial, and the headings, subheadings, which are also Arial. So that's definitely something that you want to think about. It's perfectly okay to use two different fonts, one for the body of the text and one for the title and the subheadings. It's okay to use two different colors if you want to, but you just need to know that that's going to happen. And in this case, I might want to use Courier because that kind of looks like an old-timey newspaper, and she was a newspaper editor. So that might actually be a more appropriate font for this time period. All right, so we do not have a caption yet. Let's go ahead and let's put her. I've already got it typed up, but I can also work directly on the file here. And I'm just going to go over here and make it slightly larger. Wow, that's tiny. Let's zoom in. Oh, that is awfully big. Okay. Okay. Oh, helps if you look at it. Okay. Oh, it helps if you spell her name correctly. Ida B. Wells Barnett. And then I think it actually says on the image itself what year. Okay, I'm going by my memory now, but I believe this image was taken in 1897. Now, if you're working with Ida B. Wells, one thing that you need to take into consideration is that her name changed after she got married. In the time period of the Chicago Expo in 1893, she still went by Ida B. Wells. After she got married, she added the hyphen and the Barnett to her name. So in my text, I'm actually referring to her as Ida B. Wells because that's what she was at the time. One thing that you can do is something like this where you do later Wells Barnett so that you are able to tell the judges, yes, I know what her name ended up being, but the time period I'm talking about, she's Ida B. Wells for the moment. So one thing you can do is you're obviously going to want to fine tune this. You're going to want to line things up. You might want to put a, let's put a border. So we went with a really pale blue, didn't we? Let's go with a dark gray and see what that looks like. So let's zoom, let's fit it. And if we click off, and so that border on that does make it look a little bit better, not so stark against the background. And that caption's really tiny, so I probably would want to go in, if I hit, oops, did not mean to do that. Let me zoom in a bit here. Looks like it defaults to the center. All right, so I'm going to make that fairly large. And I'm going to change it to Courier just because I can. Let's zoom so that the whole thing fits on the screen. Okay, so let's pretend that I'm done with my project. I'm thrilled. I believe this is beautiful. This is an award winner. I can't do any better than this. Oh, I should have said, you can collaborate with your teammates if you're in a group by this share button. You'll get a pop-up window and then you can add them. Make sure that the settings are such so that the people are editors. You can also add your teacher. You can add your teacher as a commentator, a commenter, and the teacher can leave notes for you on the project itself, but you probably want your teammates to also be editors. So anybody with the link can edit, and then you can add them here, and they will get a notification in their inbox with a link that brings them to your project. Another thing you want to do is you want to name your project. You want to name it your last name, and then if you have any teammates, you want to name them as well. And we're going to call this our exhibit, okay? You might want to call it final if it's your final draft, and this is what you're going to submit. When you're done with your exhibit, you're going to go up here to File, and you're going to download as a PDF. And it might take a while. And the PDF is what you are going to submit as your exhibit. Now, if you find a mistake at this point, you need to go back to the Google Draw program and correct it here. I wouldn't mess with it when it's a PDF. It can really be frustrating if you try to do that. So go here to fix any mistakes. Do save your images and your text in a way that makes sense so that you can find them again. Maybe have a separate file where you have your quotes, or what headings you're going to use. Let's actually try importing a quote and see what happens. Here's a quote, and as you can see, I put it into italics. Let's go back to here, and let's say I want to, all right, it defaults to putting it in really tiny font up in the corner up there. Control A, no, Control Z. Let's put this in Courier, and then let's put this into some really big font. And then you're going to want to do that. So here's a quote, and it brought it in, didn't keep the italics, but something that you can do when it comes to incorporating a quote is, oh yeah, it did bring it in italics. You can change the color of this font, can make the font, I don't know if that's going to be dark enough, but you could also perhaps, let's see if you can put a drop shadow or something on it. There are ways that you can make this quote stand out. You could, for example, put it on top of a shape. You could have a frame around it, for example, if you wanted to set it off and make it even more distinctive. You could, let's see, you can put a, oops, oh, okay, well that doesn't look very good. You can't read that, but that is something that you can do. You can make the background of the quote a different color so that it's obvious this is your student composed words, this is your quote that's coming from Ida B. Wells. All right, let's try downloading this as a PDF again. Actually, I should probably close out of that one. Oh, okay, so it brought it back. So if you do something like this, make sure that you save it and you know which is your final version. You don't want to have 52 million different versions and upload the wrong one when it's time to submit your final project for judging. Okay, we're going to end this here. Thank you for joining me, and I hope that this was helpful.